Hi, and thanks for tuning into Long Island Wargaming. If you're new to my channel, thanks for watching. My name is Nick. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of this battle report, a 300-point game of Armada, I do want to give you an idea of what the purpose is here of this video specifically. I want to get a feel of how to film and report an Armada game. I kind of want to introduce the game to new players. I have an existing player base of Warhammer players and maybe some X-Wing. I also want to learn the rules. When I post up my games, usually more experienced players will tell me if I'm doing something wrong, so I want to learn. I want you guys to learn. I also want to diversify my channel too, since Age of Sigmar is out for Warhammer. I'm not quite sure where I stand, so I just want to get out some more content on my channel, and here we go. So here's a 300-point game. I'll go through my list. I have a Victory class Star Destroyer with expanded hangar bays and Grand Moff Tarkin. It's also the Dominator. Note the card got mixed in over there on the side with the Gladiator. The Gladiator class 1 has a gunnery team, expanded launchers, and Demolisher, which allows me to shoot after I move, which is a sneaky little thing. And the expanded launchers will help with that with some extra dice. For fighters, I have a mix of bombers, TIE fighters, and interceptors. So my opponent Sean is playing Rebels. So we got a Nebulan B with the Salvation title. We have a Nebulan B with the Redemption title. We've got an Assault Frigate. The Paragon has advanced projectors, H9 turbo lasers, and then it's got Garm Bel Iblis as the commander. And then we have Luke Skywalker and then a few X-Wings mixed in there. So here we have a deployment. You can see we ended up sticking a little bit more on the right side of the table. I have all my TIEs and interceptors and bombers in front of my Victory class and my Gladiator. I also put down my dials just to show you what it is that I'm planning, because in this game you plan ahead. So the Victory class is going to make a move maneuver early game, and then it will make a turn 2 and turn 3 it'll do a squadron maneuver, and then over to the left I've got squadron and then maneuver for the Gladiator, because I want to pick up some tokens. If you don't use the action that you've declared, you get to pick up tokens that you can use later for them. And then you can see we got the Nebulan Bees out to the right flank, and then the big guy coming down the middle. So both of our commanders are going to be giving us extra tokens this game. They always have ability, the commanders, but in this case both of them have token abilities. Iblis is going to provide a handful of tokens on the first and fifth turn of the game. And then Tarkin, every turn will give a token to each ship of the same command, so that's good. I'll get them a little bit more frequently. So all the defense tokens are out. Those are the blue ones, and then we've got the little tokens that Iblis has now given to him. And you can also see the speed of the frigates are at 2, and the speed of the assault frigate is at speed 3. Both my Victory class and Gladiator, I gave them squadron tokens with Grand Moff's Tarkin's ability, and my Victory class is going speed 2, and 3 on the Gladiator, so they're all at max speed. So Sean gets turn 1. You shoot first, so he had no shots in range, so this Nebulan B goes ahead and does its 2 maneuver. For its action this turn, it did the squadron, so he moved 1 or 2 of his X-Wings around, so they're just moving about. So the Victory class makes a maneuver action. I've got no shots, so he goes ahead and he moves up 2. So I have this guy moving up. This Nebulan B does the same thing. He does squadron, so he uses this to move a fighter. There are no shots made, so then he goes ahead and moves up 2. So these guys are moving at the same speed together. The Gladiator goes ahead and does a squadron maneuver, so I use this ability to move 2 of my interceptors right up to the X-Wings. Sean ended up putting them too far forward, so now they're in range, so I can go in. I leave Luke alone, so he's there next to the 2 interceptors, but I do take out one of the fighters. Interceptors are great taking out fighters. They've got 4 dice each, so they move in. When you use the squadron ability, you're allowed to move and shoot, which is great. I had no shots to make this turn, so he moves. Also, there's a bomber up in the middle there. You see I used the token that I got, because that allows me to do 1 more ship move. So the Gladiator has the ability to move 2 squadrons, and then plus 1 with the token, so that's great. And then I go ahead and make my move 3, so he's getting ready to come in and smash in those Nebulan Bs. So Sean comes ahead and moves his last ship. He activates it. It also does the squadron ability. At this point, all of his X-Wings have moved. Sean is, this is his first game playing, so he didn't know how to prepare correctly, so he's going to get there. But I think he might end up just taking the token at this point. Actually, no, he's got all tokens because Bel Iblis gave him tokens, so he ends up forfeiting this maneuver, or this ability, but he does go ahead and make the maneuver, and he goes ahead and moves up 3. So after the ship phase, we move to fighter phase, and I go ahead and move my bombers and my TIE fighters and everything around, so they're in the middle, getting ready to fight when the next activation phase begins. So we plan our dials and we put them under the existing dials, and then turn 2 begins. We reveal for my victory class, which is going first. He does squadron. With his squadron, which is 3, I can move 3 ships. He has expanded hangar bay, so he's actually able to move 4. And then I also have that token that I got with Grab 'em off Tarkin, so 5. So I'm able to move 5 ships and activate 5 ships. So I move 3 bombers in so that they can start shooting at the big assault frigate, and then I also activate a TIE fighter. Let's send him in, fight Luke Skywalker. And then I also have 1 or 2 ships else out to the side that move, but I was able to get my fighters moving nice and early. Tarkin this turn gave both ships direct fire or concentrated fire tokens. So I roll 3 dice at this range to attack the assault frigate. He uses 1 evade, which is at range 3, so I get rid of 1 of the crits. But I do use 1 of my tokens to re-roll a dice at this point, and I do get a crit, so I am able to take 1 shield off of his hull. Now Sean goes ahead and activates Salvation, so he's gonna do a concentrated fire action, and then he rolls 4 dice onto. Well, he rolls 3 dice onto the gladiator, and he uses 1 extra dice for his ability with the token, which is concentrated fire. So he took the action this turn, which allows him to have an extra dice instead of re-roll 1 later with the token. And then Salvation also says while attacking a ship from your front hull zone, your crit icons count as 2 damage instead of 1. So this ends up coming in with 5 damage. Now the gladiator has a couple shield in the front, 3 shield, and I just didn't feel like taking 5 damage, so I use an evade token, which allowed him to have to re-roll 1, or I think at range, actually no, it was range 3, so he had to get rid of 1, which left us with 4 damage. Brace halves it, so that goes down to um, 2 damage, and then I used the redirect, which allowed me to put the damage to a different hull zone. So I actually end up using all of my defensive tokens with this 1 shot. I kind of want to keep this guy alive so we can punch a hole through these guys, so we'll see how that goes. Every turn you're able to make 2 attacks. It has to be from a different hull zone unless you have gunnery team. And he did an anti-squadron attack, so there was 1 bomber here on the side, so he was able to do 2 damage to the bomber, bringing him down to 3 hit points. So the frigate is going speed 2. He ends up making this maneuver right in front of my gladiator, which is absolutely amazing because the gladiator does have the ability to shoot, then move, and make his second shot after moving. So that's going to be pretty awesome. So here's just a shot of the battlefield. Here I am. The gladiator goes ahead and does his action, reveals his action, which is a move action. I will go ahead and make my shot now. So I do have expanded launchers, which allows me to have 2 more black dice in the front. So I end up rolling 6 dice, which is awesome. I also use my concentrated fire token to reroll a dice. He ends up using brace because I end up scoring 6 hits. He'll use brace, which will half them down to 3 hits. And he ends up getting a crit card though, and it's a ship damage capacitor failure. So there's a situation now that he has to deal with, but that's fine. I punched a nice little hole into the ship there. I was in a wonderful position the way Sean put his ship because the front arc of the Gladiator was able to see the side arc of the frigate. You take the 2 little yellow dots that are on the base and the arc, and as long as they can connect, you've got line of sight to that arc. So I was able to hit the side, which only had 1 shield, so I was able to go right through the shield and then get the crits in. So since the Gladiator is the Demolisher, I get to make the shot afterwards, so I get to do the same thing. 2 red dice, 2 black dice, and then 2 more black dice from the expanded launchers, so I'm taking 6 dice onto the side of this Nebulon B also. I am able to shoot from the front of the Gladiator because I've got gunnery team, so that's why I was able to use the same arc twice. I do an alright roll. I get a hit, and a crit, and then a focus, a accuracy. So I was able to get rid of 1 of his tokens, his defense tokens that he couldn't use for this attack. He ends up bracing, so that brings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits down to 2.5, rounded up to 3. So I do 3 damage onto that ship, 1 into the shield, and then 2 to the hull. The critical hit ends up hurting the engines or the thrusters, so whenever he moves his speed up or down by 1, he takes a damage, which is cool. In retaliation, the assault frigate will activate. He's got a maneuver. He will take the action, not the token, but he is going to take his shots available to him on the Gladiator instead of the Victory class so that he can try to get that ship dead since he's kind of causing some trouble on the right flank. So we end up getting an accuracy and 2 hits, and then there's the token that's used to reroll one of the dice. This ends up bringing my shields in the front of my ship from 3 to 1. And then the move here is well played. We kind of discussed what his options were, and it was to go anti-squadron with his left arc. So he's going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 6 fighters. So he's got anti-squadron 2 blue, so he ends up doing 2 damage to the bomber in the bottom left, damage here and there to the rest of them, including the interceptors. So that's pretty good. When you get to roll, 10 or so dice on taking out squadron hull, it's a good move. So that's all taken care of. So he makes his maneuver at speed 3, so he's wrapping around. He's going to have the victory class on his side once the gladiator is dead, so he can start picking some shots at my rear flank, my rear arc. This Nebulum B activates with concentrated fire, and you can see that the ship is now dead because he ends up rolling really well. 4 hits and a crit. The crit ends up being like a direct hit, which deals an extra damage card, which is enough to get the 1 hull, the 1 shield, and the 5 hull depleted. So the gladiator did his damage, but he dies first blood. So the second attack made by this frigate is anti-squadron, which ends up dropping a TIE fighter. And then he uses his maneuver token to drop speed down to speed 1. In the squadron phase, Interceptor takes some damage, ends up dying, but he does use his counter ability to shoot back at the X-Wing and end up doing 3 damage. And during the squadron phase, he does get some X-Wings jammed up against the bombers. That one well-placed X-Wing is going to tie up my bombers, which is kind of upsetting. But that's the end of turn 2. So for turn 3, we go back to the Rebel side. Redemption has conveniently got the repair action, or the engineering action, and he's also going to spend his engineering token, so he's able to get some hull and shield back, which is good because he was down to 1 hit point, or 1 hull point. So I was going to try to finish him off, but it's might going to be a little bit more time before I do that. The Redemption takes a shot at the Victory class and does a wound to the shields. And he's going speed 2, so he continues to wrap around. The good thing about this maneuver is Sean left him too close to my TIE fighter, so I'm actually going to be able to score some free shots there, which is nice. He might have been better off having it go a little bit further to the right side of the battlefield. This way he could stay away from those fighters. So with my activation, I go ahead and do the Victory class. It's the only ship we have left. And I've got Squadron, so I'm going to do an attack with all my Squadrons because I've got Squadron 4 with the expanded, and then a token. So I'll fire with 5 of them. Over here, I'm able to score a hit onto Luke, which is great. And these guys whiff. The TIE fighter could have done a shot and got the shields down to 0, and the hull has 2 points left, and the bomber could have done 2 damage to the hull. But that doesn't happen, so this Nebulum B is still running around freely. Over here with these fighters, unfortunately the bombers only have 1 anti-squadron die, but it is a black die, so there are more hits. So I am actually able to do 2 damage to this X-Wing over here, bringing him down to 3 hull, 3 hit points. So the Victory class goes ahead and shoots at the Nebulum B that's wrapping around behind me. I use the ability of the ship to take 2 shields away and add 2 blue dice. I'm rolling 5 dice altogether. I use my accuracy against his brace. I should have used it against a brace and an evade. This way I can keep that double hit, but he ends up having that evade token left, which allows me to re-roll the double hit, which then gives me another accuracy, which I can't use at this point. So it's only 2 hits, leaving the Nebulum B with no shield on its right side and 1 hull point left. So he's still running around. The second Nebulum B, which unfortunately is in the front of the Victory class, I'm going to take 2 more shields. So I'm going to use 4 shields this turn, which is risky, but you know what? I want to kind of finish off these ships. Been unsuccessful with the first Nebulum B. The second one, I roll up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dice. So I've got 3 accuracies. I get rid of all of his defensive tokens. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. So 6 hits is enough to grind through the shields and destroy the rest of his remaining hull. So then I go ahead and make the move with the Victory class, and there's only 1 or 2 fighters left that have an action. The Assault Frigate goes ahead and makes his activation phase. He's got Engineering 2, so he's going to get all of his shields back that he lost against a TIE bomber or 2. So this guy's running at full health. He opens fire onto the back of the victory class. He gets two crits and a hit. Pretty bad roll because he's got two other dice in there. He did have an ability that gave him an extra black dice. I forget why. But I use my brace and redirect, so it's really not that scary. And then he uses anti-squadron to deal some damage to these fighters. He ends up dropping a bomber. And then he makes his move, he's going speed 2, and this is the point where the game gets a little weird. I haven't quite understood it yet, but your ships sometimes just go past and then they never get back to each other. So that's where fighters come in, or possibly objective cards, which we aren't using this game. But the victory class is kind of clunky with moving around, so it's kind of interesting. You got to make sure your ship's in the right place so that they can fire the whole game. So it looks like we move into turn 4. I've got squadron ability again, so I'm going to activate some nearby squadrons, send them over to the Nebulon B, and the bomber will go ahead and finish it off. These activated squadrons go ahead and finish off the X-Wing. That's actually Luke, so Luke is dead. That's a pretty big score there. And the interceptor and the bombers finish off the other X-Wings, so all enemy fighters are now down. So I used my two red rear dice to go ahead and shoot at the assault frigate. I could start peeling away some shields and add some blue dice, but you know what, at this point I just want to keep it alive, this way I can win the game. He uses defense tokens, and he also has advanced projectors, so he can pull a shield away from the side that's not even facing the victory class, so the assault frigate is in pretty good shape defensively. I use my maneuver token to drop my speed down to 1 so I don't fly off the board and keep in range of some shots. At this point, the activation is for the frigate, and he goes ahead and does anti-squadron. He's got 3 fighters in range, and he actually does some decent damage there. So he doesn't kill any of them, but he gets some hits off onto the interceptor and some bombers. His maneuver is still at speed 2, so he's wrapping around trying to keep up with the victory class. And that's the end of turn 4. So the fighters, the one remaining bomber makes a move all the way over to the edge of the table, this way he can try to be ready to shoot at the frigate after it moves. And then he has back-to-back turns here, so he goes ahead and does anti-squadron to anyone that's in range. Doesn't kill anybody, but then makes his maneuver. He's going speed 1 now. He dropped also. So my turn 5 activation has me at repair, so that's an interesting about this is I figured a few turns ago I might be in this situation. So I've got repair going, so I can go ahead and get some shields back. And I use a squadron token to move the squadron and actually do a hit onto the shields here. The victory class opens fire with some shots here. I end up doing 2 hits and a crit, but he uses his evade. At this range, it just gets rid of the dice, and then the brace, just the redirect, just moves the shield damage somewhere else. And I have line of sight with a different arc, so I go ahead and make another 2, and he braces this, so I just get 1 damage onto the ship. And at the end of turn 5, I go ahead and move all of my ships, all of my fighters in the fighter phase to just clump up there. This way they have a shot on him after he moves. The downside to this is obviously he's going to anti-squadron the best he can, so he takes out 2 ships, leaving 3. It's not enough fighters at this point to punch through the hull, but we roll it out, so the bomber does some damage, the bomber misses, and then the TIE fighter does nothing. So that's it. I do get some damage onto the hull, but it's not enough to take him out of action. He takes some structural damage, but that's all my moves, because at this point the capital ships are out of range from shooting at each other. And there you have it. So here's the end of turn 6, a little blurrier picture, but my question to you guys is going to be, what did you think about this? What did you think about the game? Is this something that you're even interested in checking out? It's way different than X-Wing. I also want to know, did this battle report make sense? Did it flow? Were you able to understand some of the rules? If this is the first time you've ever watched the game and never read the rule book or never watched a review on how to play the game, I understand you might be a little lost, but did you kind of see what was going on? Is this a good format for this type of game? Would a video format be better where I actually take videos of each turn? I feel like this game is a little bit easier to battle report with a slideshow feature than X-Wing, because X-Wing there's so many more templates going down and maneuvers and barrel rolls and boosts where it's a little bit hard to see what goes on. I know some people like to see exactly where the templates go, so I tried my best with this one, so let me know what you guys think, and if this is something people are interested in seeing, I'll get some more out. Alright, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.